Hey everyone, and welcome to the Ethical AI Studio Info Session. Thanks for joining us. My name's Shana Horowitz, and I'm a Vice President here at New Lab. At New Lab, our focus is on advancing technologies that support the health of people and the planet. So we act as a facilitator and a strategic partner to a community of experts and innovators, helping to build, test, and scale emergent technologies through structured collaboration with industry and government partners. And our team is also involved in investment and venture building. So really a holistic way to support innovators working with emerging technologies. New Lab opened in the Brooklyn Navy Yard in 2016, and today we're home to over 200 companies, more than 900 entrepreneurs and domain experts, all working together to apply transformative technologies to urgent and meaningful challenges. So to date, New Lab has helped its member companies raise over $1.5 billion, with over $750 million in successful exits and a collective valuation over $4 billion. So part of what we provide to companies here in Brooklyn is access to on-site prototyping resources, product realization specialists, and really unique pilot opportunities and test beds. So as part of the Ethical AI Studio cohort, companies who are selected to work with us will have full access to these different resources for the duration of the program. And it's worth calling out, I'm saying Brooklyn a lot. You're seeing here a picture of our headquarters at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, but the Ethical AI Studio marks a really important milestone for New Lab's expansion into Latin America. And that's really been powered by a public-private partnership with Uruguay and with Globant, who you're going to be hearing from today. So we've got our roots and our DNA back here in Brooklyn, but we've really got a global reach in terms of the companies and the entrepreneurs that we work closely with and the way that we see this kind of work taking root across the world. So our team at New Lab runs our innovation studio portfolio, and this is where we partner with leading corporations, government agencies, and foundations to provide a structured way to access an ecosystem of vetted experts and innovators who are highly relevant to the topics and the challenges that they care most about. So these studios provide startups with important market signal about the novel application areas for their technology and an avenue and a set of partners and resources to be able to quickly test and iterate their technology in real world conditions and against specific use cases. At the same time, the studios are really helping our government and our industry partners to establish an effective ecosystem of external collaborators. So again, New Labs are serving right in the middle there to help facilitate, translate, and connect the dots between enterprise and industry, as well as early stage ventures and kind of companies building around new technologies. So to click down a level deeper there, our team's strategy centers on uncovering the right challenges to pursue and understanding the criteria that's needed for solutions to be able to scale. So we use the knowledge that we gather during our kickoff and our research work to convene the right talent and enable that talent to pursue specific projects that will advance their progress and address the challenges critical to moving an industry forward. So our work with startups is focused on finding the right pathways for them to partner with stakeholders to scale their impact. So today we're obviously going to be talking more specifically about how this process is coming to life in the Ethical AI Studio, but I always like to emphasize this is when you join a studio, there's really an opportunity that's been vetted, and there's a reason we're really excited to work with you and to partner with you and to make your time in the program worthwhile and really impactful to the journey that you're on. So to give you a sense for how this model comes to life around a variety of different themes and partnerships, here you can see just a selection of the studios that are in our portfolio at New Lab. We really enjoy taking a systems level approach to tackling the energy transition, the future of mobility, and sustainable materials, which you can see in some of these different tiles here. So we're working on energy storage innovation with the City of New York, specifically with the Economic Development Team and with Con Ed, the local utility. We're also at the same time working on offshore wind innovation with Ørsted, a market leader in that space. We're working on electrifying commercial fleets with Ford and on curbside EV charging infrastructure with the New York City Department of Transportation. So really taking both that industry and that government perspective on what's needed to get new and emerging technologies to scale in some of the most important kind of industries, sectors, and geographies. So that's just a quick overview of who we are and what we're here to talk about, but I want to pass things over to my colleague Mariella, who's going to tell you more about the opportunity to apply specifically for our Ethical AI Studio with Globant, and then I will pop back on at the end for questions. So if you do have a question, feel free to pose that through the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen, and we'll be back in a bit to answer those. Over to you, Mariella.
Thank you so much, Shana. Hi, everyone. My name is Mariela Machado. I'm a Director of Programs here at New Lab for Latin American Innovation Studios, which includes our Ethical AI Studio in partnership with Globant and the Beacon Tech Fund, which you're here today to learn a little more about. This studio is our first studio out of our Your Wine platform, as Shana mentioned earlier, so we're very excited to be reaching this milestone. Next slide, please. The Ethical AI Studio integrates advanced digital technologies with socially responsible frameworks to ensure the ethical design, implementation, and scaling of artificial intelligence. We're really aiming to directly address the unintended harms caused by digital innovations. This studio is actively seeking now early stage technology companies to work alongside Globant to develop and test new solutions that will promote well-being in two main industries, in gaming and metaverse, applied sciences, and healthcare. Next slide. We're focusing on the first one, the safer online and metaverse spaces. We're really hoping to test and deploy solutions that can utilize AI to really foster positive and safe online environments in both online gaming and metaverse. Some areas of interest include, but are not limited to, automated detection of non-text-based forms of abuse, better understanding of context and intent in online interactions, tracking interactions across different platforms, promoting and rewarding pro-social behaviors, and preventing the spread of misinformation in online gaming and nascent metaverse spaces, among many other solutions that can really ensure the safer online gaming and metaverse spaces. For our second focus areas, as I mentioned, the second industry that we're looking at is life sciences and healthcare. For this one, we're aiming to create and validate solutions that can ensure algorithms and that can deploy data that can be used in healthcare and life sciences that are more ethical, inclusive, and transparent. Some of the solutions that I can mention here, but again, are not limited to just this ones, are training AI models that are more diverse and more that have more diverse and representative data sets that can detect potential biases in the design and deployment of these algorithms, solutions that can enable usage of medical data with respecting data privacy, ensuring also reliable information for R&D and diagnostics, and detection of scientific and public health disinformation are among some of the solutions that we are looking at for this open call. Next slide, please. And again, if you have any questions about these focus areas, you can put it in the chat. We're happy to chat a little more about that, about those solutions. And now I would like to pass it to our partner, Globant, to tell you a bit more about their company and who they are. We have today here joining us for this info session, Joaquin Moriche, VP Entrepreneur Relations, and Agustin Huerta, SVP of Studios and VP of Technology IoT. Without further to say, we're thrilled that you could join us. We know how busy your agendas are, so we're very excited to have you here. Without further to say, over to you, Joaquin.
Thank you, Mariela. Let me tell you a little story. So let's get back in time into 2003. There were 4 friends, Argentinian friends, in Buenos Aires having a beer in an Irish pub, and they decided to create a company. And they had a big dream back then, and they said, hey, we want to create technology from Argentina to the world. That was the idea, the original idea behind Globant. Today, 19 years ahead of that, we are almost 26,000 Glovers around the world. We are a public company with almost $10 billion valuation. We are in 19 different countries and plus 50 cities around the world. So basically, in a nutshell, Globant seeks reinvention to itself, but also to our clients. We offer the digital transformation to our 500 Fortune clients, and we love to do that. We love to help our clients reinvent themselves. Next one, please. And another quick story, very short. 2 of the founders, this is very important. The 4 founders are still very active in the company. And 2 of the founders, the CEO, the current CEO and the current president of Globant Ventures, one day they were talking and watching a TED Talk that was about the harmful of abusing of the cell phone. And they have a reflection there, and they say, hey, we are technology builders. We build technology to our customers. So we need to assure that we must do it in an ethical way. So in that sense, that was the starting point of the Be Kind Tech Fund. They decided to take action, and they decided to, from Globant, to make a first step in order to start mitigating the collateral effects of technology. After that, we, with a group of people, we designed how the Be Kind Tech Fund was going to work. And in that sense, we defined 5 different facets, or 5 different dimensions that the Be Kind Tech Fund is going to focus. Those are AI bias, information bubbles and polarizations, screen time abuse, online harassment and abuse, and data privacy, security and data privacy. Basically, for today's conversation, we're going to focus on online harassment and abuse. In order to get a sense, the Be Kind Tech Fund is a $10 million commitment from Globant. This is money that is coming from Globant, from our P&L. But we are also building a network of different organizations that are joining us in this adventure. So we have already closed partnership with 4 different funds around the world that are willing to co-invest with us in different startups that are trying to mitigate this. Part of that partnership, part of that alliance around the world is the partnership that we close also with New Lab, and part of this ethical studio that we want to build from Uruguay. From here, I'll pass it to Agus.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. As Joaco was mentioning recently, he was talking about how we seek for reinvention. And in this seek for reinvention, we have been always pushing into new offerings and new ways for our customers to understand how to interact with their own employees and with their customers also. And last year, we launched our Metaverse Studio just before Facebook launched his new rebranding as Meta and the whole strategy they will be taking with the product of Horizons. But Metaverse is a place that is still being built and defined. Yes, no one has a concrete full definition of what it will encompass. And many of the challenges this new space for social interaction will have are still being discovered, but also many of them looks quite similar to what is happening on the gaming industry. Yes, maybe it's related still to how tied both things are, right now, because some of the proto metaverse that we all know are gaming center experiences like Fortnite or Roblox. But we're starting to see some other spaces coming up, like Decentraland, for example, or even the own Horizons from Meta. Yes, and how important it is the fact that this is evolving. That, for example, they just recently relaunched how avatars will look like in this new environment. It's because people was not satisfied with how they looked before. And as things are going and moving forward and faster than ever, there are things like already starting to happen in the metaverse. Like, for example, misinformation. Yes, last year, end of the year, there was a conference where a team was showcasing an AI that will be available to interact with on the metaverse. And there were challenges regarding certain questions that were being asked to this AI, and that were starting to disseminate misinformation that was already available on other social networks. Yes, and with anything related to AI, it's critical which is the data sets that we are using to train it, and how we avoid biases in terms of the training for these models. So these are some of the challenges that we are seeing, and some others are already, as I mentioned before, part of the gaming industry. Yes, harassment on gaming platforms, it's very hard to fight because people is very creative, basically, and as long as they have a larger set of tools to interact with or to make those interactions happen, new behaviors appear. So one of the biggest challenges is encouraging pro-social behavior. It's not just identifying and punish the behavior as it's happening. Yes. Another important challenge that is upcoming is that already has been in some way mentioned by Meta, but not fully addressed, is the fact that we are right now seeing the rise of several different platforms. And in the short term, we will not have a single big space that will be the metaverse, but rather several different experiences and platforms in which we will be participating. And it will be hard, yes, to make sure that everyone that is present in one space is the same one that is present on the next one. And so, for example, I maybe Agustin Huerta in Decentraland, and maybe I am, I don't know, some other fancy name in for example, Fortnite. Yes, I don't know, I will use my gamer tag. Let's not mention that. Yes, that's my gamer tag in the PlayStation Network, for example. But it's not the same Agustin Huerta as it's on Decentraland. Yes, it's exactly the same person. So how we make sure that the risk that we are mitigating in a way that all platforms are working together and collaboratively into this. Yes, because a huge challenge gaming platforms have nowadays, and will become a challenge in the metaverse also, is how to ensure who you are, if you are who you say you are, and how if I ban someone or I in some way punish someone for having an inadequate behavior, I make sure they don't get back into the system with a different account, with a different identification, stating to be someone else. Yes. And of course, one big challenge that we have when thinking about AI helping us on all this is how we can create tools that are aware of the context. Yes, that's a big challenge that we have nowadays, and that is critical for the metaverse and for gaming. A lot of things have a different meaning based on the context they are happening in those environments. We can move to the next slide, please. So how do we envision a world in which these things are meaningfully addressed? Yes. So one of the things Mariela mentioned is true. Yes, how we can identify non-text-based forms of abuse, including speech, content customization, in-game behavior. If we are talking about avatars in the metaverse, how we will make sure that we are able to report, for example, an inadequate behavior coming from the avatar's physical attitude, for example. Yes, and there has already been some of those things addressed. Yes, how I make sure everyone is respecting my personal space while I'm on the metaverse. Yes, so things like AI that could triage harmful audio content, how we can identify in-game or meta-based behaviors that constitute abuse, how we will better tag all the data that will come out from there to be reviewed by experts, so that we can create algorithms that can help humans moderate what's going on in the metaverse. Yes, or understand, for example, if someone is complaining about something that he or she has experienced in the metaverse. And gaming, for example, has some self-regulated environments. Yes, gamers try to tie the real identity and age to their accounts. They are accountable for how they behave because they get banned and they may lose a lot of money that they have invested upon building a character, an account, and so. If we are talking of people under age, we have the parents that could be monitoring their online gaming experience. And in the end, if there is abusive behavior, most of the platforms right now have some way of tracking and moderating that, and for users to have a say on identifying and reporting that abusive behavior. So we need to start thinking about how all these that the gaming community is starting to self-regulate would look like in a metaverse where every human being could be present. Yes, and new challenges will be arising on a daily basis, as I mentioned before, because we are building and defining it as we go. Yes. Thank you, and Mariela, we'll get back to you.
Thank you so much, Agustin and Joaquin. Thank you for being here and always insightful to hear you both. A reminder, if you have any questions for Agustin and Joaquin in regards to their perspective from the Globant side, please be sure to put it in the Q&A. I will go quickly now to the studio timeline. As you probably have seen last week, we launched this open call to look for startups that are focused on the two areas that we mentioned and that are aligned to any of life sciences and healthcare or gaming and metaverse. We will close this application September 21st. The application review process will start, and that includes, as you see on the screen, calls with top applicants. We might ask for additional information, even though the application is straightforward. And again, if you have any questions about the application, be sure to ask through the Q&A function. But after you apply in the review process, we might have calls one-on-one and ask for additional information. This finalist review and the startups that are selected will happen sometime in November, with the goal of starting the pilots and from November until March of next year. We'll have a demo day also in March of 2023 and ongoing support through April. Next slide, please. Part of our benefits, and you have this on the websites, and again, if you have any questions, be sure to ask. But to go over this quickly, the first of all of the benefits is the investment and exposure. We provide non-dilutive funding for pilots, and we take no equity. You will get access to New Lab White Network, which includes over 600 angel investors that are interested in investing in early stage technology companies. You will work closely with Globant and including the Beacon Tech Fund, relevant business units, as you're seeing here, Agustin and Joaquin, but other departments at Globant that might be also good partners for your future. The second one is the pilot. We provide a strategic support throughout that pilot phase that we mentioned will start in November, will go on until March. That includes also the ongoing support of our New Lab team, Globant, subject matter experts, and a network of relevant stakeholders to actually test and iterate part of your solution or the solution that we're testing together through the Innovation Studio. And finally, you will get access to our community and space through a membership that will provide for the time period if you're selected for the studio. With this, you will get access to 250 member companies that we have currently that are all trying to scale transformative technologies. You will also get access to our network of leading industry, ventures, and academic experts. And finally, you will, even though you don't need to be physically here in Brooklyn, you will get access to our 5 million in on-site prototyping resources and product realization team here at the Brooklyn Navy Yard headquarters, among other things. So this is everything we have. We are now going through the Q&A and answering any questions we might have. So I will invite now Shayna to join us for this next part. And again, you know, as a reminder, you put there that the applications close on September 21st. Over to you, Shayna.
Perfect. Thank you, Mariela. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here. One is, who will be reviewing my application? So great question. So it'll be a combination of members from the New Lab Studio team who have been kind of deeply immersed since the beginning with this research and with these conversations with Globant. So it'll be a combination of New Lab representatives from Globant, like you heard from today. They're also deeply immersed in this space and ultimately may end up being, you know, the customers or strategic partners for this technology. So they'll get to review applications as well. And then we typically, you know, have some of our colleagues who are looking at companies through an investment lens join in on the process as well. So it'll be a combination of different people who are partners in the studio. Okay, and next, what if I just have an idea and haven't launched a startup yet? That's great. We'd love to hear about your idea, but I don't think this will be the right avenue for you. As you heard from Mariela, we are looking to really serve as an accelerant and a strategic partner for companies who have the kinds of technical capabilities to pursue these use cases and to put their technology into practice in the near term, and eventually to be able to scale, you know, on a sort of global level to be able to provide those solutions in market. So this program is really ideal for a company that has some proven traction and momentum and in-house technical capability and is really looking for a set of strategic resources to help propel their progress into perhaps a new market segment or to help accelerate a new feature or a new product that they're looking to launch. Okay, next up, from your perspective, what does success look like for startups participating? So this is a great question. Our programs at New Lab and with partners like Globant are really strategically designed to be a good use of your time. And by that, I mean that we want to make sure that at a minimum, in a few months' time, you're walking out of this program with data and with learnings that is going to inform your own product roadmap, your own kind of technical planning and advancement, and also prove to your investors and your stakeholders that your technology, your product market fit, the efficacy of what you're trying to do really makes sense, and that there's a place for it to scale. So we want to make sure that the time spent working with us is helping to de-risk your product, your vision, and really make sure that you're walking out of that several months process with something that takes you forward. Now, in a best case scenario, we also hope that these pilots really are a jumping off point for you to form a deeper level of partnership with the different studio stakeholders and kind of find different avenues that may make sense for you to scale that offering to different clients and customers, to seek investment if that's a near-term target for you. So we'll work closely with each team to really design the right individualized plan that's responsive to where they're at in terms of progress and what they want to achieve through the studio. But you can definitely expect some hands-on learning happening through those pilot projects. All right. This is a little bit of a broad one, but I'm going to pass it to Joaquin and Augustine to riff on this one, which is, from your perspective, what do you think the ideal solution could look like in that gaming metaverse category? And maybe a way to take that could be, what are you really excited by? What kinds of features do you get excited by when you're reviewing something from a founder from an early stage venture?
Juaco, if you like, I will go first and then you
Yeah,
can
I'll go, of
share
course.
on top of that. As I mentioned before, there is a big challenge when finding the ideal solution for metaverse. That is the fact that many things are still being defined right now. I mean, we don't have a concrete say or limits in terms of, or boundaries in terms of what a metaverse is, yes, and which kind of interactions could be enabled there. But I would say that any solution that takes into account a few things will be relevant. First of all, something very significant that we are seeing right now is identity. Yes, how we ensure, as I mentioned before, cross-platform identification of the people. Yes, because that's critical in terms of if I have an abusive behavior in one platform, that should have an impact on all the other places I am interacting with. Yes, because basically it's expected that the same behavior will appear on other platforms. So in that way, the whole metaverse, although will be like isolated isles at first, will behave as a single kind of global society. Yes. Second thing is, it's great to have things that are related to what happens on text, but it's for us very interesting to start seeing startups that tackle other kind of interactions. Yes, it could be by voice, but also in terms of this kind of virtual physical experience. Yes, what you can do your avatar or behave, or in which way it will behave. Yes, and there are some things in gaming that are already starting to happen. Yes, as games make the characters more able to freely behave. This is also going into here, and also because there you have other forms of abuse related to what you can build on a game or in a metaverse. Yes. And finally, but tied to the rest, any technology, yes, that could again work on creating a safer environment for different ages. Yes, as it happens on real life, people of different ages tends to act together. In the metaverse right now, there are no limitations. Yes, in that sense. Yes, unless more things are worked upon and spaces are started to be created for people of different ages interacting on more moderated environments according to the age. Yes. So although it's part of what comes from having a proper identification of the people that is within the metaverse, also how you can creatively create this kind of scenarios without, because of that, disrupting the experience. Yes, if you have Fortnite doing a massive concert, yes, I would like everyone to enjoy it. Yes, if the content is appropriate for every age, but I would like to have like different stages where people of the same ages can interact between each other, and not a massive place where, I don't know, a kid underage is interacting with an adult, because maybe an inadequate behavior could happen from there. Yes, intentionally or unintentionally, even. Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's
Just to add up to that, I think I was covered really well. If there is any other idea related to cyberbullying or online harassment, we are really open to listen to you. But I think these three dimensions that I was covered, I think they're a good guidance for the applications.
great. Yeah, I love that in some ways we're wading into a space that is not yet super well defined. And so there's both a lot of opportunity to think creatively about what dynamic solutions are going to look like, but also to take the lessons that have been learned in terms of more traditional online gaming environments, or also just what we see reflected in real life when you bring people together in terms of how they interact and what types of safeguards can be put in place. So it's definitely an exciting and evolving space, which I think is exactly where we want to be with this particular studio. Great. All right. We have just 2 more questions. If anyone else has additional, feel free to submit them now. So the next question is, how much funding is being allocated to the startup team selected to participate? So two sides to this answer. So the first is that we have a pool of $100,000 to be distributed across the cohort of teams that are selected. And again, that's non-dilutive grant funding that'll go towards things like travel or any expenses incurred by the team in terms of their development and their work on the specific project they're pursuing as part of the studio. And then, as you heard from Joaquin, there's also a keen interest on Globant's part to look at companies who are seeking additional investors and partners. So if that is something that is true for your company, certainly it's great to flag that in your application, because if there is mutual interest, there could be the opportunity to seek investment through the studio as well. But in terms of participation, that's there will be no kind of equity taken just as part of the general participation in the program, and we'll be providing those stipends to help offset the cost of this work that you're pursuing as part of the program. And okay, last question, just about travel and kind of in-person requirements. So this is a great question, and a lot of this work can definitely be done virtually. Of course, we've all gotten used to communicating and getting projects and shipping product and conducting work virtually. And so we do believe a lot of that can happen virtually. At the same time, getting together in person can be extremely powerful and a great way to do some of that rapport building and really deeper dives on the products and the technologies with the right people in the room. So I would say it's safe to assume that the majority of your participation can be done virtually, and we would be looking to set those touch points up with our team and with Globant throughout the duration of the studio, but that we do anticipate a demo day or kind of other culminating touch points to potentially happen in person if possible. And of course, we'll communicate that with plenty of advance notice and help to coordinate that as well. Great. Okay, one last question here. I'm just going to summarize it. Okay, so someone is exploring basically whether their application, which was maybe initially built for the healthcare space, could actually be applicable to the metaverse and gaming space. So in terms of misinformation in the metaverse, could you provide some examples of what that might look like so that this team could better assess whether their misinformation tool initially developed for healthcare may actually have utility for this space as well?
Yeah, so as an example, I mentioned before, yes, end of last year in a conference in Lisbon, a team showcased a virtual agent that was ready to be placed into metaverses that was trained upon several different topics, and people can go and openly have a conversation or a discussion with this agent. One of the topics casually was regarding healthcare. They asked this virtual agent around vaccines, and the virtual agent started providing misinformation around vaccines. Yes, even going into more sensitive topics within that. Yes, if they are not good for your health, if you should or not apply a vaccine, and many other things that are typically seen when you are creating a conversational AI and you are not properly curating the information you are fitting it into. Yes, in the past, there has also been some other failed experiences around this. Like, for example, Microsoft created a Twitter bot at some point in time that was learning from the interactions in Twitter. So with time, when people started interacting with it, it started to have a more aggressive kind of answers. Yes, and that's because of the kind of language that usually you see on certain social networks. So for metaverses, that would be a problem as long as these metaverses start to have more virtual agents. How they are trained should be curated. Yes. So for example, if you are going into a metaverse experience where you have, I don't know, a bar or a pub with a virtual presence in there, or even a retailer, yes, you are talking to the cashier, to the bar attendant, most probably they will not be human beings, yes, or in the future, they will be virtual agents completely, yes. So you need to be careful because people is very creative, as I mentioned before. And although you are talking to a bartender or a cashier, they will start discussing things that are beyond the usual scope of those agents. So it's better to train them to get out of those conversations and back into the tracks they are better suited than having them have a general kind of intelligence of some kind and answering about everything they can manage. Yes. That's one of the forms that are there, but in the metaverse space, you could start having communities created that have certain virtual spaces where they will gather that will start disseminating misinformation, as it's happened with social networks. We should think that social networks are a great way for exposing ourselves as humans, because we have an open space for discussing on any topic from our points of views, and that will automatically reach a massive audience because you know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and in the end you get into that conversation. There was an interesting analogy of how many steps away you are from Kevin Bacon. Well, this is very similar. Yeah, so how far you are from misinformation. And metaverses, when they start having more this kind of social behavior, we'll see an increase on this. Yes. Right now, the proto metaverses that we have, like Fortnite or Roblox, may be source of misinformation, but you go into those spaces mainly for playing a game, and mostly you do it with friends. So the kind of interactions you have it with a closed community group of people that you know very well, and in the end, the end purpose is different. Yes, it's again playing a game. If I go to the Central and have an experience on an, I don't know, an Ibiza pub that has a presence in there, well, maybe there you will have access or reach to people that you don't know, that has a different cultural point of view on things, that has different interests, different way of seeing life, and misinformation can start spreading from that. This is, again, one of the many things that we are starting to see coming into the metaverse as we are building it and as we are enabling new ways of people for interacting.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate that extra context and color there. Okay, I want to be mindful of people's time and give Mariela a chance to close us out. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in today.
Thank you so much, Shayna, and thanks Joaquin and Agustin for taking the time to be here and provide this additional, perspective and your point of view for the interested applicants. And I just want to remind everyone again that the applications close on September 21st. And if you have any questions and you want to jump on a call with me, I'm available at ethicalai@newlab.com. So just email me and I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.